Andrea, today we're going back to Mystery Island. Winner takes all. There's a gamble. There's two mysteries taking place. There's the real deadly one, and then there's the play one. Are you ready to dive in?
If you make me.
Oh, no, no. Unacceptable. I have a feeling we may be disagreeing, so we'll just start with this is Eric.
This is Andrea.
And this is Hallmark Mysteries
And more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
All right. Well, do we have any news this week?
Well, we do have the news that it looks like we're going to be getting that serial mystery, though it's just in it's actually not in production, but it's in discussions and they've signed off on it. So
are you talking about the camper one?
The camper one, yeah.
Okay.
Campers and criminals.
In case people don't have social media, it's a weekly procedural type of show, correct? From your understandings?
Based on a book series that I've started, there's I think like 28-ish of them. So there's a lot of them in there. And they're full out. They're not short stories either. So they're going to have to be taking a, full-length book, which is what, Hannah Swenson, Curious Cater, Gourmet Detective are on, and somehow turning it into that short format. Version. So it will be very interesting. But once again, it is not approved. They're not in production.
Okay.
But
That's the rumors?
No, they've approved it to develop.
Okay.
And there's a big thing between developing and production. Yes, because we've heard, which unfortunately I can't share, but certain things that were in development that were supposed to be coming through got killed. And we are a mystery one, so that makes sense, right? Getting killed. But certain mysteries that were supposed to be coming down the road have been killed because they were in development, not actual production. Another thing, the Curious Caterer, for example.
Yeah.
Those
Who knows?
Were approved in development. They could theoretically go away. Who knows?
Well, I mean, again, Andrew Walker couldn't say in the interview I heard him. And so that's concerning to me, is that they're taking away ones that personally are the ones I liked. The ones that we're getting are the ones I have not been a fan of. So this is very
I have heard Gilded Newport has gone in production for 15.
Are you joking? No, okay. Eric, don't do that to me every time. I mean, at this point, that's what I'm thinking. It's like anyone that I don't like, it seems to be like, let's do more. Just like today's, which today, Mystery Island also, I think it has a June 5th release date, the third one.
Or the third one.
So there for sure is going to be more. So yay.
Well, shall we get into it?
Okay. Well, Mystery Island host contest winners vying to solve a fake murder for a grand prize, but the event goes awry when an employee is murdered and secrets are uncovered. This stars Elizabeth Henstridge, Charlie Weber, and then we have Kristen Booth as a guest. All right, so I've kind of hinted at this. This is not my series. I do not enjoy the series. I give it a 2 out of 5. It's not for me. I thought the mystery itself, which we'll talk about in the mystery minute, I solved it literally as soon as the person was on screen. I'm like, that's the killer. And I was right. It was pretty predictable tropes for Hallmark mysteries. There was nothing that wowed me. I originally was like, ooh, like 30 minutes in, I was all into it. And then it just hit that lull, which can happen in Hallmark movies. I personally, Frederick was my favorite character. And so he got killed. So I'm super bummed. We're not going to get any more of him, which is like
Mistletoe Murders.
Disappointing.
Whatever.
Yeah, Steve Lund. I know. I'm like, come on. So for me, I don't know if I'm not a big fan of, I don't think the leads in this movie, they're both quiet actors. And again, that might not be them. It might be what they're, told to do. And so for me, that doesn't work. They just are they're not commanding a presence and nothing, like I'm not invested in them. I don't care about them. I don't care about their relationship. And so if you're out on that, on the mystery, it's really tough selling because they're your main central characters. We got a little bit of the Baroness, which I didn't mind her, but it just, for me, this is not a series I don't think I'm going to enjoy. I only watched this movie once. I was like, just like the first time, I was like, I don't have a desire to watch this again. I like the premise, but I don't like these movies. Sorry. And now you're gonna love it. I know. I mean, you're friends with John, so that's also part of the problem. Is I feel like you're not going to be very
part
fair
of
to
yes
it.
and no.
So you're going to give it what, 4.5?
Because I give it a 4, and part of it is he likes the British mysteries, and for me, why part of the reason why I like the Mystery Islands is they definitely have this Agatha Christie vibe to it, and I really like those kinds of mysteries. So, yeah, I like I say we talk to John all the time, but he also part of the thing is he likes the same kind of mysteries that I like, and that's kind of what he's doing with this. So I'm kind of yes, I am a little partial, but like I say, it has a real Agatha Christie vibe to it to me. I will get into the when we get into the mystery minute about identifying the killer because I have layers to that. I found all of one of the reasons why I did like it, which is interesting, is I found all of the characters and like the guests all really compelling and interesting. They all had like nice little stories to them. I enjoyed all of that. Kezia, who plays Janie, she is fantastic. I think she is fun. She's bubbly. She's the British, well, she's Welsh, but the British Marla, right? She brings in that like fun energy of the BFF who is brings the shenanigan to it. I like Amelia, and yes, I see where you're coming from, but she is sort of that uptight psychiatrist. Her role is a reserved one. I do think Charlie Weber, who plays Jason, I agree with you there. He, for me, is very uneven. Sometimes I like, oh, I'm getting into him. And then other times I'm like, he's reading the cue card, go pair him up with Candace Cameron Bure, right? It just, his character, I haven't bought in on him. And I guess we can get into it later with the romance too. Their whole partnership and everything, they just seem very parallel to me. So I'm not finding that connection to it. I will say I thought James, that character who basically played three different people, right? He came in as this Texas guy, then he switched to the British detective, and then he was just himself. I thought he was a really fun character. Saw a lot of faces there. Kristen Booth, even if you didn't like the movie, I hope you appreciated her character and that like she played that.
That was the only thing I liked about this movie.
She played
For
that
me,
role.
it's funny that you
so
say
good.
that about the characters, though. So I like the characters. I wish they would have had more eccentric characters, like more like Kristen Booth. I think I would have enjoyed it a little more, I think, because I wanted just more eclectic energy coming to this island. Because what do you think? There's going to be probably some eclectic people
Right.
who are going to be able to afford this or who have won this. And so I feel like they could have went a little bit more with that. And then I would have maybe been a little bit more bought in. So I do agree with you there that I did enjoy Kristen Booth and her take. And I wish they would have just upped the ante with all of the characters. So if they do that next time, again, I think I'll enjoy it a little more.
And I'm with you there with Fredericks because not necessarily like he was my favorite character, but I just found it very out of character.
He was intriguing.
Right? He wasn't shady.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's shady. So
Yeah.
I found from going from the first movie to this one,
Yeah.
that was a little jarring for me because he seemed a very noble person. And maybe, everyone has their secrets and that's kind of sort of the theme to it. But it just seemed that he had all these little things going on behind the scenes, giving away the manuscript so she can win and, the money and selling the things.
Books.
I just found him out of character for what my expectation was. So there's that. And then the other thing was they were talking in there about his demotion, and maybe that's why he was doing it. He was the CEO, so I don't know what the demotion was. And I asked John, I was like, "Hey, what? I'm lost here. I don't get it." And he said that it was something that the explanation was cut. So when they had to, they have to make their decisions, and certain things get cut. So that scene to me just didn't make sense.
Okay, so on that note, as this movie started, see if you had I'm watching, and again, I haven't revisited the first one in a while, and I'm sure others are just like me. We haven't seen the first since 2023. As the movie started, I honestly was kind of like, what's happening? Like there wasn't, I needed that. And maybe just as you had said with that being cut, I feel like something was maybe cut in the beginning of the movie because it really jumped in, I thought, at a weird place. Like we didn't get a normal background of stuff. It just kind of plopped us into the movie. And then I am sitting here trying to remember, wait, which one is the Baroness? Which one is the psychologist? And you're trying to like, wait, so everything fleshed out in the last movie. This is what we're doing now. So I would have liked a little bit more backstory, I think, to start us off. So I wouldn't have been trying to kind of catch up those first. I feel like the first couple scenes, it was kind of jarring.
So the first scene, though, like because I did know, maybe because I've seen it more than you. I remember that Jason and Amelia were hired to create the stories, and so the beginning there,
I needed that to be fleshed out,
right? Like, oh, they're acting out their story. So I found it, interesting. But once again, I found his introduction, like I don't think he has found his groove yet for Jason, the detective. So that's my one, big complaint is I don't really get that. But I did find, the whole thing too is in the Agatha Christie, it's this closed box mystery where it's got to be one of those people, right? Mm-hmm. That's the only people who are around to do it. So it's one of them. So you have to like eye each one. And I thought they did a pretty good job of giving a compelling reason why it could be several of them. So why don't we roll into our mystery minute then, where we can go in depth on that.
I love that you said that because that segues into mine, whereas I didn't feel that at all. I instantly knew it's got to be this boyfriend. Like Baroness gave me very much Danny from Garage Sale Mystery vibes. Let's just pair her up with the person who's going to ultimately be the person who did it. And so instantly I didn't think of anyone but him. And then the way to get there, I honestly, because sometimes I don't always like pay that much attention where I'm like all the little details, but this one I'm like, everything that they're giving us along the way, clearly he's connected to these people. And so even like, like the faked suicide, like all of it, I'm like, yeah, this all connects back to him. Like there's no other way around it because the way that they tied things up for me. And I know I did see when I looked online to see, did anyone else think it was maybe an easier mystery? And a few other people had said, yeah, I solved this right away. So I feel like that could have been, again, with a closed room situation, there are only so many options. And the way they laid it out, especially with having that suicide happen as a second murder, like you're down another person. So you really have only so many options. So that's kind of your hands are a little tied there. But what did you think? Did you not enjoy that or?
All right. So here's where I am with you.
How fast did you solve it?
Well, that's where I say it's too layered for me because he came on and I'm like, oh yeah, it like just, he sets himself up. Right.
Yeah.
But the thing that was for me that I spent the time doing was what was his motive for doing it?
Yeah,
and that's what kept me intrigued.
Laid out.
And that's by not being able to figure out his motive kept me doubting that, oh, maybe it was the, Kristen Booth's husband or like, so it kept me having enough doubts, even though I identified him right away, like you said, but enough of the things I thought I had, for me, enough of the red herring just to make me question it because I couldn't figure out why. And then I really liked the why. It was interesting how they tied it into the first one of, the murder of Ruiz, who is the whole reason, once again, going back to the first movie. But it kind of, for me, and I think this is where decisions are made in the editing room, because it kind of rushed through that because I think that was kind of it's a big thing of the whole Jason character, his backstory. And I think we could have done with a little more of that. The other thing about it was the whole way to kill him by an explosion. It seems like you kind of could kill him a little more subtly. So the explosion thing for me seemed a little dramatic of a way to kill. And I don't know why you would choose that way to do it. It seems like, he's got his plot, he's all that. It just really is calls things way into too much attention. So
okay, question for you about the mentor then. So how it connected back to Jason. Did they mention that in the first movie?
yeah,
Or how much was
that's
that?
why he was on the island.
See, again, this
right.
is where if you are really watching, I mean, you have to be kind of invested because I was like, did they talk about that? I'm trying to remember from 2 years ago, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to say yes and ask Eric.
Yeah, he was a Boston cop who his mentor was killed in retirement. And so he went down there because he was killed down there. He goes down there to solve it and ends up staying. But there was like, there's the whole thing I'll go to, which is I'm not a fan of the, what's it, the Martha's Vineyard ones. Like there's that whole backstory that keeps going through. Mm-hmm. And I thought they did a good job of keeping the backstory, even though they could have done better. Whereas I do think there wasn't enough tie-in, maybe. Maybe this should have been something where they, in the second episode, talked a little bit about more of that. And then the third one,
I agree
you could have the killer who ties that in, right? To help cement it a little more. So I can feel you there. Like I say, for me, though, because I have seen it multiple times, I did get that connection a little more. The person who watches the mystery and then, watches the next one 2 years later, a year and a half later, I can see where it could be like, Ruiz? Who's Ruiz?
Yes, so, correct. That's how I was. But yeah, I felt the same, where I think if they would have done it, because since we are getting one in June, this would have been a great segue to have some of that and be like, yeah, I'm invested in that. I want to know how that turns out. And then the next one, I think I would have been more on board with that.
And it also solves the problem of helping Charlie's character a little more. Because, like I say, to me, he's just an extra, and it really is all about Baroness Janie and Amelia as being like the two primary, for me, characters that have interest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's sort of where I'm at, and like I say, I had it enough. And once again, it has that Agatha Christie vibe to it, just the slowly revealing. And in the Hallmark, if you go back to Mystery 101, we've talked about this, right? John doesn't necessarily always conceal the killer. Like Mystery 101, we've been able to identify early on too, right? It's more of that, okay, we figured it out, now the why. And so for me, he really hit that because, like I say, I had enough doubts that kept me going until the end.
Well, romance, I think we're both going to probably be on the same page here. Like I felt like I can feel some like subtle chemistry if I'm going to like throw them a bone, but really there's nothing over the top. I really don't buy them as a couple. So I'm struggling with that part of it. Like it seems, again, it's just, I need one to have a little bit more of like, yes, like this is my person. And I don't know if either of them have that energy in these movies to command the screen in that manner. So I'm a little about it. What about you?
100% agree. The one scene though, where it was coming was when he called her when he's eating his burger. Yep. And they had that little conversation like, maybe it's not that we don't like working, right? So that gave us that nugget. But then when they get together, I don't get that tension or anything. And when we talked to John last week, he did say one of the things he likes is to get that romance going. And I don't see that rolling real quick, right? With the two of them. They just seem like, what work partners kind of thing. They don't have a lot of tension, energy for me, other than that one scene. I thought that scene was really cute, and I thought it was going to keep going.
Yeah.
And then it didn't for me.
Same. Yep. I know exactly that scene because I thought the exact same thing, and nowhere did we go from there. So, well, character corner, we might have the same one. I mean, for me, it was Kristen Booth's character. She was the over-the-top person that I'm looking for in these, closed room situations. I thought she was brilliant. I would love to see more of that, where they maybe bring in some of those stars to come in and play those roles. Because you could tell, I mean, her acting chops are just above probably the rest of the people in that closed room situation. So that probably also helped. She was spectacular. So for me, more of that, more characters like that. I think, again, I don't know, since the third one's already filmed, what we have coming, but that's just over the top. That's what I want in these, island style. Because if you watch like White Lotus, that's why people like it, is just the over the top energy. People like to see that. So more of that. And then I might, turn on the series and be like, okay, I enjoy this. What about you?
So she is the easy choice and obvious choice. So I will go with you that. But one of the things is, and it gets to what you're talking about, her acting chops, is she's an over the top character, but she doesn't go over the top with her performance of it, right?
Yeah.
She comes, it's funny too, because we all think of her and Sign, Seal, Deliver, wonderful, sweet and everything. And her little snarkiness that she can pull off, we talk about it all the time. One of the things we love the most is the nonverbal.
Yeah.
And she could give just that complete look of, I'm just a horrible human being, without having to say it, right? Just the way she would look at her husband, just, you disgust me, right? So she was absolutely fantastic. Once again, the easy one. I'm going to stay with Janie until probably the series is done, because
she didn't have a big enough role. Like, give her more in this movie. Like, that would be my complaint. Those were probably the only two characters I really enjoyed in this movie. So
she's just
more
wonderful. She's funny. I liked also, by the way, that she was the killer in the game. And by the way, we didn't discuss that. I liked the fact that they said, hey, let's just keep going with the game, which is kind of bizarre if you think about it. Hey, there really is a dead body, but we're going to have some fun with the game. Whatever. But that was fun. And I liked the fact that they kept doing it and they solved it.
That mystery was more intriguing to me than the actual
I thought it was
the life murder. So
I thought it was right. I thought that was fantastic, the way she stopped it and how they figured it out. So
agreed.
I thought that was really, really good. And with that. But I just love her. She's, to me, has a lot of that Marla energy, and I love that character. So I just, to your point, I want more of her, more of her, more of her. And we're not getting that romance, so give us more, we talked about this.
Don't pair her up with the killer every time, though. Don't do that.
Yeah. But we talked about Curious Cater, right? Like, they got to a point where we're like, we don't care if Schultz and Goldie get together. Correct. We like just the dynamic of the group. So wherever, but we know they're gonna get there with the romance. So, but all right, moving on.
Well, trivia. I only have a couple. My first one is kind of a basic trivia, because I was like, well, I'm just gonna go basic because that's what I felt about this movie. Charlie Weber.
You're so basic.
Is really into martial arts. That's my trivia. My second one is another one.
He should use it then in the
some action scenes with them. And then filming location. This movie was filmed in Panama with the luxurious setting of the Mystery Island Resort, portrayed by Villa Bonita, which is a stunning property that adds to the film's exotic ambiance. So that's my second trivia. What do you got?
I know that it was such a big ordeal to find this place, because it was all happening during COVID and everything, and they found it, and it was like, wow, we're able to be contained in this big home, because they didn't think they were going to be able to, find a place like this, and they did. Well, mine's a little more not what you're going to expect.
Oh boy.
All right. So mine is John Christian Plummer. Is basically, the James character is based a little bit on him. I texted him this morning and said, hey, you got to give me some trivia that we're not going to know. So early in his career, he pivoted from classic theater to sketch comedy and then improv. He never worked on a cruise ship, but a lot of his friends did.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
And then one of his college professors, Peter Arnott, was one of the foremost translators of Greek drama. And he had the fortune of watching him perform and I'm going to slaughter the pronunciation, Eumenides, which is one part of the Aristia, which the Orestes story is based on, which was the whole thing that James did, his little self one-man show. Right?
Yep.
Which is the killing the mother because she killed the father, which, whatever. But so his professor did a marionette where he designed and built them and did the entire play from memory, every character, and it had such a profound effect that it stayed on him, and he was always looking for a way to build that into one of his stories, and so he finally was able to. All right,
That's hilarious.
But Charlie Weber also does martial arts.
That's hilarious. Oh gosh. Okay, well, Hallmark and chill. What movies are similar to this or TV shows? So for me, I think you recommended this maybe last time we watched it, and I hadn't watched this movie yet. I finally did. I love the board game. I watched the 1985 classic Clue.
Oh, nice.
And so I would say if you like this similar movie, that would be one. And again, those are over the top characters. I personally found it to be, I didn't know what I think of it still. Like it's like I like it, but it's so quirky, but lots of twist. So I would recommend that. And then for a Murder, She Wrote episode, this would be one that I would probably have us review at some point because this is one of my favorites. And it's also a closed room ski resort situation.
Nice.
Season 5, episode 4, Snow White, Blood Red. A massive...
Ooh, what a name.
I know. A massive storm results in Jessica snowed in at a ski lodge with an Olympic men's ski team and a murderer on the loose. So that's a really good episode. So highly recommend that one if you haven't seen it. That would be one to just pop into because it's not in Cabot Cove. Like you get a very fun, eclectic group of people and very interesting, I think, mysteries in that one.
You had me a little concerned though, because as we were recording, my son is in Telluride snowboarding. So I'm hoping there's no murder taking place in his little ski town there. Well, mine is, and I've mentioned it about 1,000 times during this, is Agatha Christie, but it's And Then There Were None. I really think the Mystery Island is like, I don't want to say it's a repurpose of it, but there's just so many of the elements from that, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's BritBox. I don't think it's Acorn, but it is phenomenal. It's one of the ones where we've recommended it before. Hey, there's certain programming, just do the free subscription test, whatever. It is one that is that good. There's that, and then the ABC Murders, which I don't think that's Agatha Christie, but it's also great on there. It would be a binge weekend, like, hey, I have something to do. But there you go. Agatha Christie is as you have your Murder, She Wrote as the GOAT for the TV stuff. For just straight up mysteries, Agatha Christie is the GOAT.
All right, well, let's see what people thought of this. So fan corner. Now we're only at 14 hours into my poll because I posted it last night after Eric asked if I did, and I totally forgot. So we'll see who is on an island with their results.
And I did not vote.
I did. So 5 out of 5 loved it. We're at 10%. 4 out of 5, it was good, 47%. 3 out of 5, middle of the road, 33%. And then 1 or 2, not the best, was at 10%. So, a
little more in the top.
And that's, I think we're going to get more. Well, we'll see. I bet it's going to be kind of in that middle ground.
I was going to the Hallmark Mysteries Instagram comments on it to see what people were thinking. And it was just like the first one, right? It seems like it's like you and me. People love
Either
it,
like it or
they hate it, right?
Same with Facebook had the same.
There's not much in between. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, this is great. And then there's other ones. And so it goes, I think, back to your point you made at the beginning. It's, mysteries are not for everybody. And sometimes it's your thing, and other times it's not. And if it's not your thing, it's real hard. It's got to be. And I don't think the Hallmark environment allows the space and time to then pull you into something that may not be that kind of mystery that you enjoy.
Yeah. And looking at, I was kind of bummed that they put this out of the gate on both Hallmark Channel and Hallmark Mystery, just because it is a polarizing one. And I'd rather have them lead with Aurora because, both of us agree that new Aurora is fire. Like, definitely watch that if you haven't, since it will be on the Hallmark Channel airing in April.
Unfortunately,
highly recommend.
The one that they're showing is the first one, which of the 3 new ones, I think the worst, only because
the Lesson in Murder. They're doing the Lesson in Murder, the one that we really liked.
Oh, so they're not doing the first one. They're doing the second one.
They already played the first one. The first one was on the Mystery Channel originally.
Okay.
They're doing the one that we really liked. So
perfect.
Highly recommend watching that.
Just because the first one, a lot of people didn't like Sally. And
correct. Yeah,
right.
they're not.
So
that already aired. That was already on.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This is the little putt golf place, right?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Well, later this week, we have a Royal movie recap coming up on Wednesday. And then we have an interview on Friday.
Tess Atkins, Michelle Swenson from the Hannah Swenson movies.
Perfect. So we'll get all the dish on new Hannahs. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, Eric.
It has been fun. To get ready for our British, I'll say, ta-da, cheerio.